Hi guys, now that the entire skill tree system is set for the Skeleton Warrior, it's about time to make a showcase on the skills that our Skeleton Warrior archetype will have. So in this devlog, we will show you in-depth details and some more tidbits behind the skills that our Skeleton Warrior will be using. We'll also test the skill tree branches and the types of Skeleton Warrior we'll be building and branching out to. For those of you who are new here, I'm June and I'm making a reverse RPG game where we play as a monster instead of the usual RPG heroes that we play. And our goal in our indie game Wisplight is to eliminate humans that are exploiting our island home and recapture the territories that they are invading. I make devlogs on the development of our game, and if you're interested, feel free to subscribe to get updated. Let's begin! So previously, we talked about our biggest updates yet, which are our skill tree system and the changes to our combat. And right now, we'll test those changes, apply and use those skills. Let's start with our basic skills, which are the dodges. So here on our skill tree, we have the dodge ability, and this will cost us 1 wisp and 1000 catalyst. This also gives us 3 paths to choose, 2 of which will upgrade our fortitude stat and our stability stat. The middle one, called Fluid Mobility, will upgrade our cost when using the dodge abilities, making us consume less stability for every dodge made. Let's go for the stability and fortitude nodes for now. Then let's get the quick dash attack and some nodes for essence propellant, which will allow us to increase our dodge distance. And then finally, this attack combo node called quick slash attack, which gives us an additional hit when we're using our dash attack. Let's also get this dodge counter node that lets us do a quick dash attack after dodging back. Let's test this build. Alright, let's test dodging, then countering. Now let's test the dash attacks with the quick slash. There you go. Now let's expand this build by getting these knowledge nodes. For now, we can get these nodes just like a normal skill node, but in the future, for us to get knowledge nodes, we will need to learn these things by completing quests or events as the game progresses. For example, for this knowledge node, we need to defeat a certain boss that uses essence to make things float around and hit you. After defeating this boss, Cassandra will have the opportunity to learn this essence manipulation skill that makes things lighter using essence. After learning this ability, she will teach you this modification on your essence, allowing you to make your sword lighter using Blade Fury, creating swift attacks when dual wielding swords.
Cast your glow upon me, Lightweaver. Let the flow of change refine your power.
Let's test them out. First, we need 2 swords so that we can use Blade Fury. Then we need to right click so that our sword will glow ready for an attack. We must be wary though, since Blade Fury takes a lot of stability. So we must check our stability from time to time when using this skill node. Alright, there you go. So that's the branch for the dodges. Basically, it's more focused on dodging enemy attacks and countering them. Now let's test out a different approach in engaging enemies. Let's try the shield archetype. So here we have the shield skill nodes, and the main goal as a shield type skeleton warrior is to soak damage and wait for a counter attack. So this branch here is all about guarding and soaking damage. Basically, the nodes here will give the ability to reduce the damage taken on all 3 stats, the fortitude, stability, and essence, while guarding. Before activating all of them, let's first test what it's like not to have these skill nodes activated. As you can see, even if we're guarding, we're still taking significant amount of damage. Now let's upgrade the reductions and get all these skill nodes. Let's test it. See the difference? The damage is greatly reduced. Now let's check side by side. You can clearly see the difference on the red fortitude bars. Now let's test other nodes related to shields. Here we have defensive stance. This will allow the skeleton to regenerate stability faster when it's guarding. Basically, when you guard, your stability regenerates slower, like this. But if you upgrade these nodes, stability regeneration when guarding will be much faster. This is very important, especially for the shield type skeleton warrior, since this will reduce your chance of breaking when your stability goes down to 0. Now, for the shield's special ability, we have here the shield bash. This ability doesn't need a knowledge node or an event to complete. We just need some wisp and some catalyst to upgrade it. It also comes with passive nodes that will reduce the essence and stability costs when using the shield bash. Basically, the shield bash will knock back enemies that are attacking you, making them roll back and giving you the opportunity to recover from the attacks. This method has a cleaving effect, affecting all enemies that are attacking you that are in front of the shield bash attack. This is very helpful for crowd control and keeps enemies from overwhelming you with attacks. Now, let's test this archetype. Okay, let's lure the enemy and do a shield bash. Let's hit him. Okay, let's do a shield bash again.
Fucking shit!
There we go.
Down.
Let's lure this guard into attacking us. Let's just soak his damage. Now let's do a shield bash. There you go. Let's lure the guard again. Let's just soak his damage. And when he tries to attack us, let's do a shield bash and then counter attack. There you go. Alright. Next, let's try a different archetype. The archetype that utilizes hit and run tactics. These are the skill nodes that we'll be activating. Mostly, we'll rely on sprinting when using this archetype. So from the sprinting skill node, we'll branch into 3 stat nodes, 2 nodes for fortitude and essence, and 1 for stability. We can get the fortitude nodes and stability nodes for this, since we don't really need a lot of essence for this type of archetype. Next, we have here the overhead strike. It let us do a quick jump attack on the enemy while we're sprinting. We also have passive nodes that will make our sprint speed faster. Let's test it and compare the difference. This is the sprint speed for the skeleton with no slick essence. And this one is when we have all activated. Basically, the goal here is to land hits on our enemies and run away from them as fast as we can, so having a fast movement speed is a must. Then we have here a combo attack node that follows up on the overhead strike, dealing an additional hit to an enemy. And on the side of this node, we have the stability regeneration nodes. We need these nodes since stability is a very important stat for this type of skeleton warrior that needs stability while running away. And on the other side, we have the regulated sprint that helps us regenerate stability faster even though we're sprinting. Here's a difference between the two. Here's one with no regulated sprint and no stability regeneration nodes. And here's a warrior with all nodes for stability regeneration and regulated sprint activated. Let's test this archetype. Our goal here is to do hit and run tactics. Let's swoop in and hit the enemies with our overhead strike, then run away to safety, recovering our stability. Also, we're currently using the mace, so it will be easy for us to stagger or stun our enemies, since maces have high posture damage. Right, let's do it again. There you go. Now for the guard. So still the same strategy. We swoop in and hit the guard, then run away to safety, recovering our stability. And once it's stunned, we can do free hits. Once the guard recovers, let's run away again and find an opportunity to attack while our stability recovers. Right, let's lure the guard towards us and hit him with an overhead strike. And again, let's do free hits until he dies. There we go. Next, let's upgrade this archetype by equipping it with dual maces. This will grant us the ability to use this knowledge node that we will unlock once we finish a quest related to dense essence. This will give us the ability to manipulate our essence and make it heavier, making weapons deal more damage, and potentially knock down enemies. The Bone Crusher ability will have us transfer our sprinting momentum directly to our maces, while making the essence of the maces heavier, dealing huge damage and making enemies knock down. It's a perfect skill for a hit and run archetype. Alright, let's invade this ruin. Let's look for enemies.
One of them's coming.
Okay, let's do some hits. And let's run away to recover our stability. Right, let's look for another one. There you go. let's do some free hits. And let's watch our stability. Let's go back.
Keep your son busy, boys.
And let's watch out for the enemies. Hit him again. There you go. Next on the list of skeleton archetypes is the one that uses essence the most. First, we need the Absorb Death Essence that lets us absorb essence from fallen enemies. This will give us 3 paths with stat nodes, 1 fortitude, 1 stability, and 2 for essence. Then, this will open the skill nodes for the essence absorption, which increases the essence gathered for each corpse. Let's compare this skill. This is what you get when you have no skill nodes for essence absorption activated. And this one is for when you activate all of them. Essence is crucial for this archetype since we'll be having a skill that heavily relies on essence, which will lead us to the next node, a knowledge node that Cassandra will learn when she's exploring the dungeons. The Death Essence Codex will have her learn more about Death Essence and how to utilize them. 2 branches of skills will be unlocked. The first one is the ability to detect Death Essence nearby. This is handy later on since there will be hidden Death Essence all around the island ready to be harvested, especially in graveyards and crypts. This also gives us a clear indicator of Death Essence from corpses nearby. The other one is the Essence Explosion, which will have our skeleton detect weak enemies and have a small burst of essence explode in front of them when hit by the skeleton's sword, stunning them. This takes a small amount of essence, but greatly tilts the scale of battle in your favor. There's also an upgrade skill that will reduce the amount of essence used when using this ability. Let's test this archetype in battle. Let's look for some enemies. Okay, here's a guard. Let's hit him and weaken him until the essence explosion bursts. So, there you go. So once essence explosion is triggered, it will stun the enemy. So basically, with the Death Essence Codex, the skeleton will know if the enemy is weakened, then he will cast an explosion to stun the enemy. And it only costs a little essence though, so it can easily be recovered once we absorb Death Essence. So let's kill this one, and then let's recover all the essence that's lost. Alright, we recovered most of the essence. Now, let's take this archetype even further when we're using dual weapons with fire damage. For now, we'll have the torches, but in the future, we'll have more weapons that have fire properties imbued in them. Here, we have the Unstable Essence Knowledge node, which we'll unlock after defeating a boss that utilizes Unstable Essence to make traps and explosions. After Cassandra learns this Essence Manipulation knowledge, she will teach you how to use it, unlocking the Arsonist skill, which allows the skeleton to burn its core, triggering the unstable essence within, creating a huge explosion that deals huge damage and knocks down nearby enemies. This also deals damage to your skeleton, eventually breaking it, but it automatically reconjures itself ready for battle. Let's test it. Let's lure the enemies in. Once they're near, let's trigger the Arsonist skill. As you can see, the enemies gets knocked down. Also, even though guards are guarding, they're not immune to fire damage. Be careful of this skill though, since it damages the skeleton's fortitude as well. Let's do the Arsonist skill again. There you go. Having archetypes doesn't mean that you are strictly inclined to use the branch skills exclusively. You can mix and match the skill nodes that you need and go hybrid. For example, let's test a hybrid archetype. So instead of using dual torches, maybe we can use sword and shield while getting the essence explosions, at the same time getting skill nodes for finishers. And maybe some skill nodes from the sprinting tree, specifically the stability region. And maybe some nodes from the dodge tree, specifically the dash attack and its combo. Let's test this hybrid archetype. Okay, let's try and stagger this enemy. Let's close the gap quickly using the dodges. And let's do the finishers. Okay. It's actually one of the many builds that I like. It's well rounded. It has the defensive shield. It has a dash attack that closes the gap easily. You can also easily stun the enemy using the essence explosions, and the finishers will be your damage dealer. So it's actually a well-rounded build. It's balanced, and it's fast in dispatching enemies. The downside for this build is it takes a lot of Wisp and the Catalyst for you to build this one. It's definitely not an early game build. Or maybe we can do dual maces that deal huge posture damage with finishers and the essence explosion as well. Maybe get the dash attacks too, to get the dual wielding dash attacks, dealing posture damage twice compared to single maces. This build stuns the enemies frequently, leaving them prone for execution. Let's test it. Having dual maces will deal twice the posture damage. Plus pairing it with the essence explosion easily stuns enemies, like this torchbearer. Now let's try that guard over there, a sturdier enemy. Let's close the gap using our dual mace dash attack. Let's lure him so that he will not have his guard up. Then let's do a dual mace dash attack. Then let's finish him off with our crushing blow finisher. The downside for this build is that our finishers for maces have very small damage compared to the sword finishers. It does deal a lot of posture damage, but it doesn't deal as much damage as swords does. It still does the job though, especially if you're dealing with enemies one-on-one. Now let's find the last enemy. Let's close the gap with another dash attack. Now let's finish him off. There you go. Now let's try dual torches with some dash attacks and the sprinting nodes to make a hit and run archetype that deals fire damage and wait for enemies to just burn to their deaths. So basically the goal here is to hit the enemies with fire, then run away to safety. So we just repeat this process. We swoop in, deal fire damage, and then run away. Swoop in, run away, wait for an opening. Swoop in again. Just let the fire do its thing. Swoop in. And if the enemy is stunned, you can always do some free hits. Alright, he's down. Let's try some guards. So this technique is actually very effective against guards, because guards can't guard against fire damage, so their shields will be useless against fire. As you can see, the guard is burning even though the guard shield is up. The downside for this build is that fire damage takes a lot of time to chip away the enemy's health, especially guards with high health. So you just need to be patient with this one. There you go. Or maybe a safer full tank archetype that takes all fortitude and stability nodes from all the trees and maximizes the restore fortitude and stability regeneration skills, plus pairing it with the guard's reduction and adding a finisher to the mix as our damage dealer. Let's test this late game build. So our goal here is to test how tanky this build is. Let's try guarding. So as you can see, the fortitude, essence, and the stability bars didn't even take a lot of damage. This is a very sturdy build. We also have mobility for this build. We have the sprints, we have the sprint attacks, and we have the dodges as well. So, but for now, let's just test how tanky this build is. And just go aggressive on the enemies without thinking of dodging or thinking about our health.
In positions.
Our heal or restore fortitude as well is also very high, and it restores a lot of fortitude with less essence. Okay, let's try and look for a lot of enemies to test further this build. Okay, here we have guards. So let's go aggressive on them. Do shield bash. Let's do sprint attack. So as you can see, as long as we're guarding,
I'm going in.
our fortitude is nearly impossible to break. Also our stability. Stability recovers fast enough. Even though we do aggressive moves like dodge and dash all the time, our stability regenerates back up immediately. So there's nothing to worry about if you worry about breaking your skeleton. So that doesn't likely will happen in the long game, especially if you're just facing with mercenaries, since mercenaries are just low-level enemies. But it's different if we're facing with champion enemies or with boss fights. So for now, we'll just test this so that we can check how tanky this build is.
Defense, defense. We're losing men.
Now let's do a finisher. There you go. So basically, finishers will do the most of our damage dealing. I think pairing this with Essence Explosion will make things easier, but it costs a lot. So the downside for this build is it costs a lot of Wisp and Catalyst. This is basically a late game build. There are a lot of ways and approaches in playing your Skeleton Warrior archetype. Just pick one that suits you, or pick one that's best in defeating specific enemies. The choice is yours to make. You'll soon have our combat demo so that you guys can also test these skills yourself and give feedback and suggestions in improving them. You can join us in Discord and apply as a playtester to get access firsthand when the combat demo is completed, or you can browse our Discord server for some sneak peek on the development works in progress. You can also help us with the wishlist by wishlisting Wisplight on Steam, so it'll really help us with the marketing later on once we launch our game on Steam. As for other development updates regarding Wisplight, we now have a lot of concept artists working on some concepts for Cassandra and the UI for the icons. We have Morsi and Nui who's working on the UI art for the icons, and we have Kirby and Mbazi who's working on some concepts for Cassandra, our companion, and Francis, our blacksmith. For those who are interested in helping us out, let us know in Discord. We'll see what tasks are available for your skill set. I also would like to thank my patrons for supporting me in the funding of Wisplight's assets. Also, I specifically would like to thank Tech Spectrum for wiring us donations for the development of Wisplight. It means a lot to me. So yeah, on our next devlog, we'll talk about menu screens, loading screens, scenes, and how I manage levels in our game Wisplight. Till next time.